Hello and welcome to Amanda's Wellbeing Podcast, a podcast where we discuss all things relating to your well-being, ranging from nutrition to physical and mental health. I'm Amanda Hayes, your host, a nutritionist with a passion for well-being. Before I introduce today's guest, I'll take a moment to let you know that you can subscribe to my podcast on YouTube, hit the red subscribe button and the notification bell, or on your favourite podcast app, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify or Google Play. I will also mention that although I will often be speaking with experts, any information or advice provided in Amanda's Wellbeing Podcast is not intended to be used to treat, cure or prevent injuries or medical conditions, and it is not a substitute for advice from your own health professionals. Today I am here with Belinda Holmes. Belinda fell in love with ballet at the age of 3, a love that continued as she trained in dance into her early 30s. In 2004, Belinda discovered yoga, in some ways a natural extension of dance, but it also gave Belinda a chance to build on and understand the relationship between body, mind and breathing. In 2011, Belinda completed her Bikram Yoga training under Bikram Yoga, the founder of the Bikram Yoga school, and then went on to qualify as a Pilates instructor. Belinda opened her studio, Eastside Yoga and Pilates, in 2016, where she offers a range of classes. While pursuing all these time-consuming endeavours, Belinda was busy parenting her 6 children. Yes, you heard right, 6. Belinda is passionate about health and wellness. She is calm, thoughtful and kind. She is beautiful inside and out. Today we will hear about Belinda's journey to opening her studio, the benefits of yoga and Pilates, and how she practices mindfulness in this busy, overstimulated world of ours. Hello, Belinda.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and welcome to Amanda's Wellbeing Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I thought we'd start with discussing your journey to becoming a yoga and Pilates instructor, both from the personal point of view and from the practical point of view. So first of all, what inspired you to become yoga and Pilates teacher?
Well, I did yoga many years ago and I found that particular style of yoga didn't fit for me. So it was quite a while until I did discover yoga. I did my first class in Bikram in the city, and the moment I did my first class, I knew that was what I was going to do.
That was the one?
That was the one.
Yeah.
So from there, I think with the just movement and the connection, it just really resided with me. So from there, I just knew I wanted to have my own studio.
Yeah.
So it took a few years and everything opened up to allow me to have my own studio.
In terms of how you got to that point, how did you actually train? Like, did you do a course somewhere and where was that?
So I started practicing daily and then I went in to do advanced series. So I had a practice for a few years and then I went off to teacher training, which was really quite an emotional journey because I left my children for 3.5 months.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. So where did you go to do that?
I went to LA. So there's training twice a year, in particular Bikram Yoga, and the training is very extensive. So you have to stay in a particular, what they call the yoga bubble.
Right.
And you get trained day and night and really tested.
So you're basically just living yoga.
Living, breathing, anatomy, postures, dialogue, so many things.
That sounds very intense, but I guess that's a great way to learn, just total immersion, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. Wow. 3.5 months away from your kids.
I know it was challenging, but I guess I slept for the first time in a while.
Yeah, exactly. And, these are the sacrifices you've had to make to open your studio. And you also are a Pilates instructor. So was that a similar thing, or didn't have to go away to do that, or did you do that here?
No, I did my training interstate, but that came a lot easier from a ballet background.
Yes.
Because Pilates is dance-based. So it was formed from Joseph Pilates. So both yoga and Pilates is a body movement, but they're totally different philosophies. So I found the Pilates was very basic and easy from a dance background.
Right.
But the yoga was definitely a lot harder to learn and understand.
And I think yoga, it's not just about movement, is it? We'll come to mindfulness and breathing. But I also thought before we do that, could you explain to our listeners what is Bikram Yoga and why is that different from other yogas?
Okay, so Bikram Yoga is a hatha yoga, which means you have a posture and release, whereas you've got things that other people have heard of, vinyasa flow, Iyengar. They're all movement-based, so one movement, one breath. With Bikram Yoga, it's the same 26 series, and it's done 26 postures, and it's done twice in a row. So you can really have the opportunity to get deeper into those postures. And a lot of people say, do you get bored? But you never get bored because it's just taking a bit deeper each time. I found it very challenging at times, and especially because of the heat, but the health benefits to having a heated room is amazing. And to get that meditation style of just focusing on yourself, your breath and your physical body is a great way of just calming the mind of all those external thoughts, what we call monkey brain.
Yes, I've heard of that in Buddhism. But with the heat, is there a specific temperature?
Well, we heat it to about 40, 42, but the main thing is the humidity. So you're starting to sweat, the detox, the heat expands the vascular system, helps loosen up the ligaments, so you can have a bit of a deeper practice in a non-heated room.
Yeah, that makes sense actually. How do people find it hard to adjust to the heat, or do you think it's just a matter of getting used to it?
A lot of people come in very nervous because they hear all these horror stories about the heat. But when they've calmed down, they've realised that you can always take a knee, but it's once you start sweating, you don't really notice the heat because your body's using its cooling down system.
Yes.
So, I found that in classes where the heat hasn't worked, it's a totally different experience because your mind wanders because you can't, with the heat, you can't really think about much else. So it's a good form of meditation.
Oh, that's very interesting. I hadn't really thought about it in that way. So in terms of the meditation and the mind, I know that physical fitness is closely tied to mental fitness. So I just wondered if you could talk to us a bit about how that has benefited you personally, the mindfulness practice.
Okay, well, for me, I was always taught from a young girl, because my dad was quite a good swimmer, right into exercise, that if you apply the same philosophy as you do to exercise and that discipline, and you apply that to daily life, then everything will fall into place. You'll have that little bit more of an advantage. So I find that, having that discipline has helped me get through challenges in life. So that's why I think I like to give everybody the chance to have that discipline, come into a room, do their best, and the rewards are plenty.
What are some of those rewards in terms of maybe things your clients have said to you about it?
Well, weight loss, they love that.
Yeah, who wouldn't?
Because my skin feels better.
Yeah.
And the choices in eating, because when you have a regular practice, you can't eat a lot before class, so then you start to think about what you're eating, and then naturally people drink a lot more water when they have a regular practice, and obviously the benefits to drinking water is amazing. So they just naturally then will think about their hydration because it's something that they need to have a regular practice.
So it sounds like there are flow-on effects and huge benefits. Obviously, it's not just the moment when you're in the room, it goes on from that. In fact, one of the questions I did want to ask, which you just touched on, was what do you personally eat, or do you eat before you do a hot yoga class?
I only have something light.
Yes.
So banana, something quite light. But the preparation I have is always hydration.
Right.
So, and it's not necessarily the day of yoga if you're doing it in the morning. It's the day before as well. So
yeah, that's similar to running an endurance race or doing a triathlon. You need to get your hydration happening
before, not just if you leave it to during the race, that can often be too late.
Oh, of course. And you start to feel sick and everything else. Whereas if you've, and you know, just daily, I think people don't hydrate enough as it is.
Yes, I think part of it is that we get so busy that we forget. But, you know, I think these days you do see a lot of people walking around with water bottles. So the message is definitely getting out there.
Which is a great thing.
How about your personal daily practice? Apart from actually running a business and parenting, when do you fit in your own practice? And is that separate from your classes you take, or do you combine it?
Well, I run every morning. So that's something that I've done, especially having children. That was just my little time to myself first thing in the morning. And that's my little preparation for the day. But and I do have a regular practice. You can't teach yoga and not practice yourself, because you need to understand what your students are going through, what people are feeling, and then you can sympathise and empathise with them, and also speak from the heart when you're giving them advice.
And I guess one of the beautiful things about yoga is you can probably practice it anywhere when you know all the right postures.
That's right. Yeah. You can take it. It's a tool in your toolbox, definitely.
And then moving on to your own studio. So what was the driver for you? It sounds like you always had a dream of opening a studio. What was the thing that made you actually take the final leap, and how did you find a space? Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, it took me a long time to find the right space. It took a couple years.
I'm not surprised, because I think it has to have the right feel to it, I imagine.
Definitely. And I'm a real believer in when things are meant to be, they happen for you. So I discovered the place at Erindale, and it's behind some shops.
Yeah,
and
it's beautiful.
Discovered it in almost night time, and there was garage doors on there, and it didn't look anything like it does now.
Really? Yeah. Wow. So was it somewhere that was for lease and you found it, or did you stumble across it and find out about it? Or
well, it was for lease for quite a while. Because being in the back, it's not really...
Yeah, that's true.
Not many people could utilise that. Whereas for a yoga studio, it's perfect.
It's ideal, because it's away from the noise. It's a bit private.
It's a hidden gem.
It is a hidden gem. You don't really... Well, you know it's there because you've got the banners out on the street, but if they weren't there, you wouldn't really know.
No.
I know when I first had a look at it, I thought, wow, this is so amazing. Like, how did you find this? And then when you actually found the space, how long did it take for you to renovate it to the way you wanted it?
A year and a half.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a lot of negotiation with council. That takes quite a while. And then there was a lot of asbestos in the room. We had to take all of that out. So it was a huge thing.
Wow, what a massive commitment. It's a gorgeous space. It's got lots of natural wood and light, and it's lovely. So it must be a nice space to be in as your workplace.
Well, I love it. I tell everyone, make it your home.
Yeah. And then can you tell us a bit about what you offer there, what kind of classes? Because it's not just yoga and Pilates, is it?
No, there's quite a lot. So obviously there's hot yoga. There's a gentle yoga, a yin yoga, which is non-heated as well. So the gentle and the yin are non-heated. And then we have a vinyasa flow. And Pilates, reformer Pilates, and we've just got a new physio in there as well, which is exciting.
Oh, so that's great.
I found that when I practiced in the city, I loved my home studio where I discovered, but people that would practice Bikram are very Bikram focused, and I understood that wasn't for everybody. So I wanted to have a place where everybody can come and do something for them, whether you know, on a different day you might feel like a hotter class, or you might feel like a non-heated class. Well, at the studio we offer a whole array of things.
So as I mentioned in the introduction, Belinda has 6 children, and she obviously runs a business and keeps up her daily practice. So Belinda, can you give other working mothers some tips on how you do it? How do you fit everything in?
Definitely organisation. Yeah. So lunches are made the night before. And it's just about being completely organised. Yeah. My washing machine is always on.
I bet.
So it's never off. I look at it as a continual. I used to try and finish, and that used to drive me crazy. So have the washing finished or have the dishes finished, and then that would...
actually drive me crazy. So the
Ah.
best thing I could do was let that go. It's a continual. It's not something that gets done.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
No wonder I'm going crazy because I'm in the finishing mode.
Exactly. I was for many years. And when I let that go, it just made my life so much and opened up then for more things.
Oh, that's such a great way of thinking about it. And then the next thing I'd like to ask you about is nutrition. Because I'm a nutritionist, I'm always interested in other people who are focused on well-being and wellness, what they eat, what they enjoy to eat. So Belinda, what's your typical diet? What do you like to eat?
Well, I try and eat as natural and organic as possible. So always fresh fruit, fresh veggies. I don't have red meat. So I'll occasionally have white chicken, fish, but generally, and I don't have any dairy and gluten-free as well.
Is that because you are celiac, or is it because you just don't feel great when you eat gluten?
I don't feel good when I eat gluten.
Yeah.
I find that I bloat.
Yes, a lot of people find that, I think.
Rather than having the test done, I stopped eating gluten, and then I worked out how my digestive system felt and how things ran that way, and I felt so much better.
Yeah, so trial and error. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think people need to find what works for them. That's usually the best way to approach diet with a healthy base, obviously, of fruit and veggies.
Another thing I can say about eating is I try and eat seasonal.
Yeah, great.
So rather than try and source something that isn't in season, and naturally now I feel like it. So when mangoes are in season,
Yeah.
I'm eating a lot of those, or stone fruit right now and things like that. So I try and eat what we're meant to eat at this time of the year.
Yeah, back to how probably our grandparents ate.
Definitely.
A more natural approach. And the final question that I ask all my guests, if you could recommend 2 things that people could do to improve their well-being, what would they be?
Okay, so the first one is drink water.
Yes, you're a big fan of that.
Definitely. And also having alcohol-free days.
Oh, yes.
I think and physical fitness, I could go on about that forever as well. So just taking the time to just take in 30 minutes of whether it's walking. A lot of people say they don't have time. I'm a believer then you make time. So
Yes.
sometimes I do get up at 5:30, 5 o'clock just to fit that in. And the benefits of how I feel having done that is enormous. So I hang on to that
Yes.
feeling so that drives me to keep moving and keep motivated.
That's a great advice. I agree too, because I think sometimes if you say you're too busy, you fall into a cycle where you don't exercise and then you feel worse. So you just have to set that alarm early and get going.
Definitely, and is a snowball effect
I
either
agree.
way.
Yes.
So,
well, thank you so much for coming on Amanda's Wellbeing Podcast. And I look forward to doing a yoga class soon.
thank you, Amanda.
Bye.
Bye.
If you would like to connect with Belinda, visit her website at www.eastsideyogaandpilates.com.au. On her website, you will find many useful tips about the benefits of yoga and Pilates and how to prepare for a class. I will put a link to Belinda's website in the show notes. And that was Belinda Holmes. You can subscribe to Amanda's Wellbeing Podcast on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, and while you're there, click on the bell to be alerted when new episodes are available. You can also subscribe on your favourite podcast app, iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify or Google Play. And you can follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Direct links to all social media can be found on the subscribe page of my website at www.amandaswellbeingpodcast.com. If you would like to contact me, you can send me a message via the contacts page on my website. Please feel free to suggest topics you'd like to learn more about and people you'd like to hear interviewed, and I'll do my best to deliver that to you. Producing the podcast is a labour of love. We put in a lot of time, money and effort behind the scenes. So if you enjoy Amanda's Wellbeing Podcast and would like to make a contribution via Patreon, PayPal or by Amazon to help ensure we continue to provide you with excellent content, please visit the contribute page on our website. Also, and finally, if you are listening on iTunes, please take a minute to leave a rating. And if you listen on YouTube, please hit the subscribe bell. It improves visibility and will help me source excellent guests. Thank you for tuning in.